Hello and welcome guys to Magnus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Hyperstone Heist Let's Play and Review for the Sega Genesis. Now if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and of course ring that bell so you could get notified anytime I do one of these Let's Play and reviews. Now today is going to be Hyperstone Heist for the Sega Genesis, just like I mentioned, and the way I like to do this is I like to split these quick Let's Plays into 4 categories for the review. Is it difficulty appropriate for the game? Do I find it fun today? Were the graphics impressive for the time? So trying to put my 90s hat back on it to think about it back then. And do they hold up today? Now, and the way that I do these gameplays, of course, is I don't put any codes. I just play, and I'll play until I get game over and then stop. Or if I beat it, I beat it. I don't want to do any cheats or anything like that. I'm going to increase my lives here to 5, which I did that, and I set the buttons already, but no codes. We're gonna go. I got a couple of items to talk about, not just this game, but without further delay, like they say, let's kick shell. And welcome everyone who's watching. My favorite is Raph to choose. Raph is just my guy. Now the story is Shredder shrinks the Statue of Liberty and all of New York with the special Hyperstone, and then he takes it for himself because with the power of the Hyperstone he can of course take over, and he, of course he challenges the turtles to come and get him. See, there you go. He's got pretty much all of New York. I have the treasured Hyperstone from Dimension X, and it's only a matter of time before I conquer the world. Turtles, I dare you to challenge me. Why would he do that? So of course the turtles just happen to be watching TV because they always watch April O'Neil on the news, and they use their, out of coincidence, high energy detector to get them. Now this game was released back in 1992, around a similar time that Turtles in Time was released for the Super Nintendo. So this was the Sega Genesis competing game that they released at the time. So this was known pretty much Turtles Hyperstone Heist in the US. In Europe, this was known as Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles Hyperstone Heist because the Europeans, for some reason, thought that ninja was a word that shouldn't be used for kids. So instead of ninja, they replaced it with Hero Turtles. And in Japan, this was actually known as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Return of the Shredder. So interesting title, and the fact that none of the regions could name the game by the same name, that's pretty interesting. Now, my first experience with this game was actually a cousin of mine had gotten it for Genesis, and it was his game, and I wanted to play it, and he brought it over with his Genesis back in '92, and he's like, I got this, let's play, because I was a huge Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan from like the first arcade game, and I just love the way Konami designed this game. Now, of course, Konami doesn't exactly have the best reputation nowadays, but back in the 90s, you couldn't touch Konami with Turtles, Castlevania, all that stuff. So here I go. Now this game is pretty much really fast. This port of the game, if you compare the Super Nintendo Turtles in Time versus Hyperstone Heist, Hyperstone Heist has less levels than Turtles in Time, but the actual levels in the Genesis version are a bit longer than they were on the Super Nintendo. And if you listen, the songs and the action was just a bit faster on the Genesis. Call it blast processing, call it whatever you want. It just happened to run a little faster. To be honest, the graphical layout of the Genesis version compared to Super Nintendo's Turtles in Time was a bit sharper and a bit grittier. And I just enjoyed the music and everything better on the Genesis. Was I a bit biased? Of course I was, but personally that taste hasn't changed, even though I'm no longer console biased. But that's that, and that's what I think of this game, or kind of things that were going on when this game was released back in the early 90s. If anyone has something to say about this game, or if they remember this game, or even played this game, or even care for this game, let me know in the comments. Hit that like button if you joined this video, and let me know what you think, or another game that you'd like to see. Of course, likes always help to get this channel out there, so thank you, and I appreciate that. And maybe one of your recommendations I might want to do in a future video. But not only is this about this game, which this game is, I mean, it's one of the best beat 'em ups ever released, and the animation, the comedy that happens while you're fighting, the constant smashing of all the characters and just bashing them left and right was why this is one of the beat 'em ups. It just grabbed your attention at all times, and the AI is pretty intelligent in here compared to a lot of beat 'em ups released at the time. And the AI, believe it or not, is considered on the Genesis version a little tougher than the Super Nintendo version as well. So they were a bit more aggressive, let's get this guy and destroy him. But then again, they have their moments where they're not so bright. But Streets of New York, I always liked the Streets of New York sessions of any of the Turtles games. In the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game that was released, I believe probably a year or two before this one was, the animation wasn't as good, but one of the levels that I absolutely adored was when you jump out of April's apartment and you'd end up in the streets of New York. It was just so much fun, and I would only play that game in the arcades. I did not have the Nintendo version. I only had Master System growing up, so it was fun. But anyway, moving on. So that's Turtles, and next topic we're gonna talk about is Shenmue. Shenmue, if you guys don't know, Shenmue was a game that was released in 1999 for the Sega Dreamcast, and the sequel, Shenmue 2, was released in 2001 on the European and Japanese versions of Dreamcast before being ported to the Xbox for in 2002, I believe. And that game basically didn't sell as well as Sega hoped, and that franchise basically died. So fast forward in time, that game got a pretty much cult following over the years, and a lot of gamers that would either end up with a Dreamcast with that game, or would hand it down to their little brother and sister, or even just pick it up at a garage sale or whatnot, ended up starting a whole following along with the loyal fans who played it right from release. And it turned out to be one of the most demanded games for any new console, and Sega is always asked whenever they would post anything on social media, when is Shenmue 3 come out? Because they had part 1, part 2, but Shenmue 3 didn't come out. And a lot of the problem was the fact that they were never able to recover the money that was spent on that game. And that game, if you guys don't know, that game is kind of an action RPG, and it was considered one of, if not the first open world game ever released. I mean, this game was so precise that you could basically just do anything. Open drawers, walk into any door, talk to everybody who had their own lives and their own stories, and it was just pretty immersive. And based on that immersion, it just pulled you in. But of course the game wasn't perfect. Some of the controls were a bit flawed. It suffered from minor slowdown issues or pop-in issues, and the first game was marred with the fact that you had to wait so long in real time just to get the story going. But that intention was done on purpose because they wanted, the developer basically, which was Yu Suzuki, wanted to get you immersed in the world, because while you're waiting you could go to the local arcade, play video games that he himself designed back in the late 80s, or just kind of play darts or do other things. Get to know other characters a little better, see certain scenes that you could only see at certain times. It was pretty amazing. As I'm fighting Leatherhead here, trying to stay focused. There's nothing harder than trying to stay focused and talking about a completely different subject. But Leatherheaded himself, I pretty much have faith that I could beat him pretty easily. And he's beating me up. Alright, we're almost done. So, talking about Shenmue, so that game was pretty well. It actually was one of the pioneers. It wasn't the originator, but it was one of the pioneers that made quick time events cool again. Whether you're a fan of that or not, they actually did it. And they did it pretty well. And then when the sequel came out, Dreamcast was pretty much on its last leg. So they decided to, at least in the US market, release it on Xbox. And on Xbox, it just didn't garner any excitement because you had games like Halo and you had other games that came out and multiplayer games and games with better graphics on a very powerful system, and then everyone was just like, why bother with a port of a game on an inferior system? So there was no point, and the franchise died, but it died on a cliffhanger. And the story basically of Shenmue, I'll wrap it up real quick, is just that your father gets killed and you're looking for the killer, and you realize that he's no longer in Japan. It takes place in the 80s, and because he's no longer in Japan, you follow him to Hong Kong where he lives, and then you fight gangs and deal with other circumstances in Hong Kong, and then finally by the end of it you meet a girl who basically you were destined to meet since ancient times, and you've got this mystical mirror, and the main enemy has the other mystical mirror, but you never really face him. And I'm dying on this. Hopefully I make it. So, because you never face him, at the end of it you find out that there's more than what you know about this whole legend, and then the game ends in a pretty much cliffhanger. And then you wait years, because that game never had a sequel, until finally, in E3 2015, you're waiting and you're sick of rumors and whatnot, and then finally it gets announced that a Kickstarter is launched for Shenmue 3. And that Kickstarter garnered a heck of a lot of excitement, but a lot of questions like what's Shenmue, especially from the newer generation, who had no idea what that game was about. And pretty much it broke the record for fastest goal reached at $2 million. It took like 2 days or whatever. It was less than 24 hours, I believe. And why didn't I blow that before? But it took less than 24 hours to get that 2 million goal. And then it also was the highest funded video game project in Kickstarter history, at least at the time when it happened. So it was amazing. So basically the original launch date of the game, this was 2015, they estimated that, yeah, we'll launch the game at of course, get popped. They said that they launched the game by December 2017. And my thought was like, how the hell are they going to finish a game that big in a year and a half? Or at least that's what we were hoping for, that the game would be big. And lo and behold, it was delayed until pretty much third quarter 2018. So here we are in first quarter 2017, almost second quarter, and the game's been delayed again until 2019. Now, my personal opinion on that, I am so thankful it's been delayed. Rush projects only turn out to be disaster, and you know that if it's rushed and it's thrown out the door, then the publishers and developers just want to see if they can make a quick buck. But this one's not popular enough to make a quick buck unless you give it more time and more effort. Plus, they just announced that they're going to relaunch Shenmue 1 and 2 in HD for the PS4 and the Xbox One. And that's not going to happen until fourth quarter 2018. So you need that to launch to at least let it percolate a little bit and get people talking about it again, as long as the ports are done well. See, this is, speaking of, this is one of the Shenmue games that I still have the PAL version for the Dreamcast of Shenmue 2. I still have the original in that one. As I get my butt kicked because I was holding the controller in one hand. Again, I'm hoping to beat this game, but I'm getting my ass kicked too. So let me get past the stories in a quick amount of time before I get destroyed. So before I move on, I got another got a question here before I get killed. A question apparently by Emmanuel Rodriguez, aka Cheeky, if you know him. I'm telling the world, Emmanuel Rodriguez is Cheeky. But he asked, will you know, the important question is it Yanni or Laurel? You heard it here, it's Laurel. It's Laurel. The person who recording it said it's Laurel. Don't give me any of that drama that it's not Laurel. It's Laurel. But if you got young, fresh ears, it's Yanni. But it's Laurel. Alright, so moving on. The next item we're going to talk about is the Vita. Now, Sony recently announced that the Vita cartridges are no longer going to be produced starting March 2019. And that's for North America and Europe. In Japan, the PlayStation Vita, which is a portable console that I'm sure at least most of you who are watching this probably know. It's Sony's portable console. Its direct competitor is pretty much mobile phones and the Nintendo 3DS. But basically Sony stopped caring about it after a while, and no big AAA publishers have put out any games for it within the past few years. The system was released in 2012. And since they didn't do that, the only real support that was ever given for that console is indie developers, which released pretty good games on the console, and then you could get some great Japanese style games on the Vita. So, but other than that, it wasn't really something that Sony was focused on. They don't even mention it in their press conferences. But in a recent press release from Sony, they're going to stop making the cartridges. And my honest reaction was like, they're still making cartridges? I hadn't seen one in stores in the longest time. The store shelves, at least at a recent Target, they used to have a good portion of the Sony section was filled with Vita games. Now it's non-existent. So I had assumed, oh well, nothing's coming out that's new. They're not making anything else. So I thought everything was download only. And I had a big enough memory card to where it didn't matter anyway. So I bought a 32 and a 64 gigabyte PS Vita card, which was part of the cause of their failure. Just so that I could just download all my games and not bother, because it just didn't matter to me. And that's that. But Sony, they canceled it. It totally makes sense. I was surprised that they were still making games. It made no sense. But I'll tell you why it's still relevant to me. I played the Vita almost every day since launch in 2012. Or at least I'm looking for it. I have it near me. And that's basically because it's probably my most it's my favorite portable console. And the big reason was for two reasons. We had, for a time, you could play PlayStation 3 on it. PlayStation 3 games using the PlayStation Now app. And that was fun, but then they discontinued support for the Vita, which was real disappointing. And I'm getting my butt kicked. Rocksteady, you are going down. So, but before I get slaughtered in this, the other reason I kept the Vita is the fact that it let me play my PS4 games from anywhere. And that in itself is a reason why I keep it. My PS4 would stay at home if I'm out traveling somewhere and I feel like, you know, catching up on God of War because I want to play it in a portable sense. I'm gonna play it while I'm waiting in the supermarket or waiting at the doctor's office or wherever I'm at. I just hook up the Wi-Fi to my phone and then I could just play from anywhere. I was playing the other day using my phone, hotspotting off my phone and just playing a video game. I was playing God of War actually. So that's one of the reasons. And how does it look? I'm going to show you how it looks. Let me just cut to the next scene. I'm going to pause it for a second and I'm going to show you my next. I'm going to show you a But the fact that I could play games on it was all in all the reason why I kept it. PS4 games on the go. I don't need to even download the games that I get for free on a monthly basis thanks to PlayStation Plus. It's just a console that I just prefer. So let me know what you guys think, or if you got any additional comments. I could tell that the only person who cares is Emmanuel Rodriguez, and all he cares about is Yanni and or Laurel. But I don't care about that. So we're already on I guess approaching Shredder's hideout. Back to this game. I gotta focus because with 3 lives, I'm not playing around anymore. So Raph's my favorite only because as a kid I always liked him. I still have Mutating Raph in its original box from back in the 90s. I looked it up to see how much could I get for this if I sold it. Not much. But it was still, he's still my favorite because he's very quick in this game. So in this game, because they surround you so quickly, you want to be able to move fast. And the Genesis version was pretty fast. So I didn't care so much about reach. I mean, Donatello was insanely slow. So was Michelangelo, which was a lot of people's favorites. But I cared about just getting my hits in and moving around as fast as possible because I wanted to make it. So as you can see, I could do pretty well when I'm paying attention. But see, this was back when Konami actually made good games, because Konami at the time was just, I mean, like this game for example, they tried to re-release this. I believe Ubisoft tried to re-release the Turtles in Time. I mean, Ubisoft now has the license for Ninja Turtles, not Konami. So when they remade Turtles in Time, it did not control anywhere near as fast as this. It didn't move anywhere near as well. It was kind of fun, but it just didn't capture that same magic that you'd get from pretty much a graphic design like this, like what Konami did. So Konami had a great franchise and they just let it go. They had a lot of great franchises and they just let it go. But this was by far one of my favorite, if not my favorite Konami franchise, until DDR came out in the late 90s. And then I was all up on that, and kind of still up on that. Geez, these levels are long. These levels are long. See, the thing I like about the AI here too is that they constantly stay moving until they wait for you. Like if I'm smashing a guy back and forth, boom, 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 they'll position themselves strategically so that they can get me at the right moment to hit me. But if they get too close, then I smash them with a body. When you play this 2-player, especially in the arcade, I'm fighting 4 guys at a time now, but the screen would fill with foot soldiers. See, this is a creative part of the level, because if I jump like a sucker, I get the Mortal Kombat treatment, if you know what I mean. So no running here. See, boom, hit with a shuriken. Because they time it just right. See, they had to build these traps in the game because, oh great, nothing like positioning. They had to build these traps in the game because if you don't have some sort of varying gameplay besides just beating up 100 foot soldiers constantly, then this game is going to get incredibly repetitive and boring. Even I'm kind of worn out from constant foot soldiers, so having these additional challenges makes it a bit more interesting. And I don't know what's coming next. I haven't played this in a couple years, but it is getting a bit overwhelming because my health bar is at 2 and I need a pizza fast. That's actually what I had for dinner tonight. it was easy and quick to repair. I actually wanted to do the thumbnail with a pizza, but then it was still in the oven, and I'm like, I gotta get this out of here, so. Okay, Mousers just took me out. Oh crap. See, this game was tough. Will I get game over, or will I make it to the end? I don't know. Crap! I'm just gonna stay in this corner. Or maybe not. Okay, I'm focused because I definitely don't want don't want to lose. Crap. Okay. Alright. Oh, now I get a pizza after I bit the dust. There will be no continues, so if I get game over, pretty much that's it. And then if you want to experience this game, you can pretty much purchase it, play it yourselves, or figure out a way on how to buy it, or if you still own it, whatever. It's on you guys. Here I proceed. Alright, now we're going to Tatsu. Now Tatsu is a character who was not in any of the cartoons or the comics, I believe, but he was in the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. He wasn't. I don't even believe he was in the Turtles in Time game. He was a Genesis exclusive enemy. Now, these foot soldiers are annoying me. Ugh. I'm not saying much because I just want to beat him without losing another life. I don't have many lives to spare. I'm not paying attention at all to those foot soldiers. They didn't matter. So he was in the movie, and then they put him in this game, and that was a nice addition for the game, although he wasn't exactly challenging. And here we go. Cowabunga. Find Shredder's hideout, going through the cave, or the gauntlet, which is basically, you know, everybody you just beat, let's do that again. So these guys, I don't know if you ever guys or anyone watching this felt this, but have you ever thought that these characters, if you've seen the cartoon or if you're looking at this now, don't they look like the aliens from Alien, except orange? These were like pizza monsters or something like that. But to me, they were like, yeah, total rip-off of Alien. And that's how I saw it. And pretty easy. I'm under pressure here. That's why I'm not saying much. I'm under pressure. Now I got Leatherhead, but Leatherhead I took out pretty easy. Now, why did they make him purple? It's like we cloned Leatherhead, so now he's gonna be purple. And I don't get it. Now, Leatherhead was a character that I do not remember his backstory from the cartoon at all. But he, you know, first exposure I had was from the 80s and 90s cartoon. Now, these Ninja Turtles are not based on at all any of the Ninja Turtle cartoons that came out in the 2000s. And these Ninja Turtles are also not based on the live action series from the late 90s, which was a mess. At most, this just took some inspiration from the cartoon, from the comics, and from the movies. Okay. One down. And the gauntlet keeps going. Rock steady. Now, I always found it strange that, okay, they include Rocksteady, whose style was from the original arcade game, but no Bebop. Like, what sense does that make? You at least want some Bebop, or at least both of them at the same time. There's a famous scene from the arcade that that has both of them just kind of run and smash into each other when they would get confused, and then if they smashed into each other, they just beat each other up because they were just so mad at each other for not getting at the turtles. Short work of Rocksteady. Could use another pizza. And he's done. If I lose this, if I get game over here, this will be the first game so far in my streaming reviews that I've actually not finished. Oh, hello Tatsu. Didn't I just finish you? And now I gotta fight you again, and you just finished me. That's it. It's on. How did he hit me? I do not like fighting Tatsu. He's a cheap character. I do not like fighting him at all. So I've been going for almost half hour playing this. Oh yeah, Baxter Stockman. Now this was another confusing difference from Turtles in Time to this. Baxter Stockman uses mousers to fight you, but if you've ever watched a cartoon or played Turtles in Time, Baxter Stockman turns into a giant fly. And he's actually the first boss of the Turtles in Time game, as the Fly, not as this. This actual enemy comes from, or this version of Baxter Stockman comes from the original Turtles game, as he lays waste to these damn mousers. Last life. It's either now or nothing. Come on. I might not make it. I definitely might not make it, but here's hoping. Ah. Oh, it's game over for me, guys. It was fun playing. It's over. No continue. That's how I play. So, I tried. I've done better, but thank you guys for joining. Don't forget to like and please subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can see my next stream. My next stream will be on Wednesday. So my next stream is definitely on Wednesday. So if you want to tune in, 9 o'clock on Wednesday. I think I'm going to upgrade this system a little and see if I can play something else. Probably in the fighting genre. But let me know if you guys have something else. As always, thank you, and you can make my day if you subscribe today. This is Magnus, and I'm out. See you guys later. Should probably enter my name, huh? Not like it's gonna save, but E M Y. Check you guys out later. As always. Thank you.